Hey, I'm Tom Rapini on the ASUS electric vehicle test drive, virtual test drive. This is a 1972 Honda 600 that I converted to electric power back in 1993. Back then you didn't have any options for electric cars. And I gotta say, I'm a bit of a hacker. I get things done, but I'm not much for aesthetics. So this had a 600cc motorcycle engine. It was an air-cooled with 2 cylinders coming up like a motorcycle. I beheaded it, took those cylinders off, capped it off with a plate, shoved an electric motor on it right there. It's only a 12 horsepower DC high voltage electric motor, about 72 volt electric motor. I belt drove it directly into the transmission. That allowed me to keep the existing transmission, so I had an easy mechanical reverse instead of having to do an electrical reverse. It also, because I wasn't really sure how much power I had, it allowed me to use the 4 gears, so I could figure out what gears I needed. And I certainly don't need all of them. I only use 2 gears now, but at least I was able to pick the gears to get enough power with this underpowered motor. This is the controller that converts your pedal motion into a pulse stream that controls the speed to the motor. So this was about an $800 piece of equipment. The motor I got surplus for about $300. The car I paid about $800 for. It was rusted out. This, by the way, is the 3rd body. I have rusted out 2 other bodies and moved all the electrical hardware over. The rest of this is mostly accessory stuff. We have a cooling fan to cool the motor, and that was the old heater motor. We have a heater motor, which is from another one, similar car, the same motor, and this is actually just to provide heat because, unlike a gasoline car, there is almost no waste heat coming from this motor to heat your cabin up. This is the latest technology, for me at least. I went through several generations of lead acid batteries. Now I have actually lithium-ion batteries in this car. These are our cells that each cost about $100 each. There were 36 of them, 2 of them went bad. So I'm at about 110 volt system right now. These provide me now to have almost a 70-mile range on a full charge. The car is much lighter. Now I'm at about 1/3 of the weight in the back, which is another reason it's giving me more range. I have less weight and more energy. Right there, the green thing is actually the battery charger, onboard charger. It actually is a regular 110 volt outlet. I can plug in anywhere. That charger can take 240 volts too, and I do in the garage have a 240 system that plugs in here, which allows me to quick charge the car. And by quick charge, it still takes a fully discharged battery about 6 to 8 hours. Well, 4 to 6 hours at 240 volts to recharge it. I think we're ready to take a ride. What do you think?
Let's do it.
75% of our home's power is made with a 4,000 watt solar array, which charges this car. So 75% of the transportation in this car is solar powered.
Okay, this is a 1972 Honda N600 that was converted to electric power. And I'm going to tell a little bit about the technology and what I did to convert it. But I guess I'd like to first start with a little bit of history and give you some relativity into electric vehicles. So going way back to 1973, I had just graduated from high school. Yes, I'm that old. I was working part-time at a golf course, and I was the one to manage the electric golf carts. Sadly, by then, the fleet of electric carts was down to only 1 that was used by the ground crew because they'd been replaced with gasoline-powered carts. So electric vehicles were ideal for golf carts from the perspective of the amount of torque they did to move a couple of heavy golfers around with golf bags. The quietness, of course, is great on a golf course. The main problem, of course, was they had limited range. You could easily get 18 holes out of a golf cart, but you try to stretch it to 36 and maybe not. So fast forward 10 years later, 1983, I'm finishing up college. Yep, still going to college. I built my first electric car, and I did a final paper on electric vehicles. And at that time, electric cars were going to be the thing. Great progress had already been made on motors. The electronics were coming around with power electronics, so you could make a controller for electric cars that was smooth and seamless and very efficient. The only thing that wasn't in place was batteries, and so all this stuff was talked about, new battery technologies. I remember Zinc Air and other unusual batteries. The post office was testing a fleet of electric mail trucks. Perfect application. Actually, it's a disgrace that we don't all have all electric mail trucks now because it's a start-stop application with low, long total mileage, and all our mail trucks should be electric. But for some reason that got canned in the 80s. In any case, from all my report would have said we were only a few years away from electric vehicles in 1983. Fast forward to 1993. I've got a newspaper clipping, actually a clipping from the inside cover of Time magazine, saying how bad electric cars are. It was called "Clearing the Air on Electric Cars," and it told how expensive they were. Of course, if you make any car in a quantity of 10, it's going to be very expensive. But also went on to talk about, inaccurately, you couldn't even have a radio in your car because of the amount of power draw, which is totally bogus. The sponsor for that very expensive ad on the inside cover was Mobil Oil Company, the predecessor to Exxon. So my point was, the politics, the oil companies especially, were just inundating people with the foolishness of electric cars, and the politicians all about it. They killed battery research, they killed battery investments, and the auto industry was glad to go along with that because they didn't want to retool for an entire different kind of engine structure. When the electric car arrives, it will be the cheapest, most long-lasted, most low-maintenance car you've ever owned. And I think that's starting to come to fruition here. I'm grateful to Tesla and Nissan for those companies doing what they did to get electric vehicles going. In any case, in 1993 is when I first got this car running. And I will now have my son take a selfie here. Ryan, my videographer, and actually was in 1993, about 6 or 7 months old, got strapped in the very seat that he's sitting in right now, and got to take the first drive in this car because I was so excited when everything came together, building my own homemade car, that I couldn't help myself. I strapped him in his little car seat and took off down the road to see if I could hold 35 miles an hour, suburban driving up and down hills. And it worked. It was great. It was exciting. Certainly put Ryan at risk for our first drive, but so I only really need second and third gear. Electric motor has so much torque, I can actually literally start out in third or fourth gears. That's why most of your electric cars you'll buy today, first of all, will not have any transmission probably. They're using the motor only. And second of all, they have a thing called regenerative braking, which I wasn't sophisticated enough to put on this car, but it actually allows you to capture the power when you slow down or go down a hill and return it to the batteries. So instead of your brakes engaging when you first start stopping in a Nissan Leaf, for example, you are actually engaging in a generator to recharge your batteries. I've got lithium-ion batteries in the back that give me about a 70-mile range on a charge. The car easily can do that if I don't drive aggressively. If I drive higher speed, which I don't usually go higher speed on the highway, and the car will go 60 miles an hour, then of course that range is much less. And of course lithium-ion batteries are vulnerable to wintertime cold, somewhat like lead-acid batteries, not quite as bad, but the range will drop in the wintertime for a lithium-ion battery also. I'm hoping these EV virtual test drives on the ACES Solar Tour will encourage viewers to go electric. So please consider an EV for your next vehicle. And for those interested in a do-it-yourself conversion, let me briefly suggest some components. The Cycle Analyst was certainly a great addition. It gives you data on power usage, power management, also records charging times. Also the Curtis controller, one of the premier, longest made electric vehicle controllers, has a little bit of a nuisance squeal when it starts out, but it's known for its reliability and low cost. Then there's the Manzanita Micro battery charger that I'm using, an excellent piece of equipment that totally manages battery charging for lithium-ion batteries. So I hope everybody viewing this recognizes that electric cars are the future. It will be a very low maintenance, enjoyable ride. Ryan can testify to that. He has a Nissan Leaf. I guess I'll close with that. Again, vote with your dollars. When you invest in something like that, you feed the market. You create the demand and you bring down the prices. Economies of scale and make for a better, cleaner planet. Go electric. Thank you.